Come on.
because they are born from men and from the holy watchers, is their beginning and primal origin.
So without the book of Enoch, you really wouldn't understand the primal origin of spirits and what they're out to do to mankind. This is their beginning and primal origin. Come on.
They shall be evil spirits on earth, and evil spirits shall they be called.
Come on.
As for the spirits of heaven, in heaven shall be their dwelling. But as for the spirits of the earth, which were born upon the earth, on the earth shall be their dwelling.
Exactly. Read.
And the spirits of the giants afflict.
Now check it out. Hold up, brothers and sisters. So when there's affliction in the earth, you know that there's an evil spirit in the midst. See, you should be able to identify that. We should be able to know that and understand when there's affliction in the earth, an evil spirit is in the midst. Read.
Oppressed.
They oppress. Listen, brothers and sisters, slavery is a spirit. Captivity and having that mind state is a spirit. Okay, it's different, brothers and sisters, because you could come in the truth, but we have to understand that a lot of mindsets that have been instilled in us, we gotta shed. We gotta shed that in the box slavery mentality. Because Christ said, what? The kingdom is within us, right? So all the gifts, all the ability, all the talents of the kingdom are within us. So we don't have to be in a box. And I'm going to tell you, brothers and sisters, I didn't have that thinking fully until I came into this church. I didn't realize that under Christ, I could be a free man. Under Christ, I could do his will, establish his way, and actually break free from the programmings that they were looking to do us in. Go ahead.
Destroy. Attack through battle.
They attack and do battle. Come on.
And work destruction on the earth.
And they work destruction on the earth. So when you see utter destruction and things happen and commotion, you know an evil spirit is in the midst. Read.
And cause trouble.
And they cause trouble. That little mischievous stuff.
They take no food, but nevertheless hunger and thirst and cause offenses.
They cause offenses. So brothers and sisters, and I'm going to pause on that offenses. That's a key point. Because as you remember, I was saying that this New Year's resolution is that this church operate like a family. That we operate one unit, all one mindset, one love, move in that same direction. And brothers and sisters, I'm going to tell you, I've seen it. It's been a pleasure, it's been an honor to serve. You know, I wasn't ready for last week, so y'all all still suspended. Every last one of y'all. I love you. It's been a pleasure. Happy New Year. So at this time, brothers and sisters, I'm going to respectfully yield and really, give honor and thanks to the Most High for our elders, for our shepherds, our leaders, those who have taught us and led us and showed the way. And I'm giving place for my friend, my brothers, Elder Rakashiar and Elder Lawyer. Let's give them a hearty shalom and thank the Most High for them. Shalom. Happy New Year.
Yeah, we don't have no partners in crime here. Where's my partner in Christ? Oh, there you go. Lawyer. How y'all doing? All right, before we start, is it me or is it hot up in here? Turn the heat down. You know when Jacob get up in the house, that's heat in of itself. You know, that strong spirit radiating off of the children of light. Let me tell you something, brothers and sisters. I thank the Most High for another year and to understand the times as Bishop was speaking. But I also, before I left, I prayed for family, unity, love, perseverance, and protection from the enemy. The closer we come to this, the more our people become aware, the more targets we become. So we're going into a year in which I wanted to speak about something that will lead to a continual hedge over each individual, as well as the church and our families. What is the lesson today? A new spirit, a new year. A new spirit, a new year. Something happened this morning which really moved me to speak with this particular lesson. I look at my phone, I'm still contemplating, okay, what can I say in the Spirit of the Most High that would resonate with the people today? Not just a normal message. And I say, you know, we need some good news in a new year. Right? We need some good news. Every year, even in the world, we would have what you would call the New Year resolution. Like for this year, I'm going to do this. For this year, I promise myself I'll dedicate myself to that. Right? 2 months in, no more resolution. December 31st come in and you bring in a new resolution. Right? But what I wanted to talk about today in this new year is a new spirit as well as a new year. Let me discuss what I'm talking about. I didn't exactly understand what I would talk about today. And believe me, we're going to get right through these scriptures because the food is ready. All right? I looked at my text. And Elder Rock, was 10:04 in the morning, left a message on my phone. Elder, I'm not going to be able to get to service today. Her water broke. Right? Her water broke, and the midwife is here. And I'm like, man, that's big time. The water broke. Israel is a woman in travail. On the same day of a new year, out of any day of the year, her water broke today. And I'm like, man, I don't believe in coincidences. That woman is in travail. She's bringing forth that baby. And we're that baby. All of us have been targeted from the womb. Our children, our families has been targeted from the womb as that woman in travail. If they had an opportunity, Christ would have been killed in the womb. If they had the opportunity. I was going over Jacob and Esau last week. And in the Jewish records, the legends of the Jews, it speaks of the angels who were over each of the children, Jacob and Esau, in Rebekah's womb. How the angels were over them. Michael was protecting Jacob. Samuel, who was Satan, was the angel over Edom, who was Rome or the Europeans today. And they were struggling in the womb. And Michael said, listen, somebody touched this child. He in the heavens, this is the legend, in the heavens, Michael burned Samuel or Satan with fire in a war to protect Jacob in the womb. So beyond, this is their legend. You can read, this is what they teach in the synagogues, believe it or not. What really happened, the origin of racism in this earth starts with what? The dominion from the womb. Jacob was winning the battle in the womb. Rebecca struggling, not understanding this type of birth. And she went to inquire of the Most High. And he says, listen, 2 nations are in thy womb. Your belly represents the earth. And the world will not be big enough for both of them. They can only rule one at a time. So once they could not destroy Jacob in the womb, Jacob was beating Esau in the womb, fighting. Because it says one shall be stronger than the other. It was Jacob. And Esau said, get off me. If you don't let me out first, we both stay here and we'll kill mother. Mom dies. And Esau came out first. And that's in the legend of the Jews. So we must really study and understand how much, not just now, how long this woman has been in travail, and how the healthcare system has targeted our sister's womb to a degree to try to stop what? The growth of God's children. We must really, really view this healthcare system as a political tool to preemptively get in front of Jacob being born. Okay? Because that's what they're doing. When it comes, let me tell you, no sooner as we started figuring out what was going on, and less and less of our people were agreeing with getting certain things administered to their children at birth, no sooner as we started realizing that, don't think they weren't taking up those numbers and putting it in the database and saying, you know what, it's time to roll out the next plan. They know. We're under that plan, a woman in travail, but I'm going to tell you, the Most High will protect us through this. Listen clearly. So I want to talk about this new spirit. What that woman represents in this new year. And what will be the reward at the end of the season. And when I say the season, I'm speaking in specific Earth's time. At the end. Elder Lloyd, let's go to Jeremiah 30 and let's start at 1 through 18. Her water broke.
Yes, sir. Jeremiah 30, verse number 1.
Come on.
The word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, Thus speaketh the Lord God of Israel, saying, Write thee all the words that I've spoken unto thee in a book.
Write it in a book. The book that has been continually under attack. The Bible. I don't see anyone out there trying to discredit any other book but this one. Why? Why? It's the book of God. He says, write this in a book for us. Read.
Verse 3. For lo, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will bring again the captivity of my people.
I will begin to awaken the children of Israel who are scattered throughout the earth. I will wake them out of their sleep. Read.
I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah, saith the Lord, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it.
That's an oath, a promise from our God. That this awakening eventually would lead to us receiving Jerusalem again. So this awakening is not just for us to figure out we're Israel. It also simultaneously tells us we're pilgrims in the earth, strangers without a home. That's what they didn't want us to realize. Now it makes perfect sense. Why are they fighting in the Middle East? Because the land has been vacated or desolate. If we were there, there would be no Jerusalem to fight over. And this is what they feared, folks. It was a race. A race for another nation to get Palestine before we realized that we are the children of Jacob. The race to get Palestine. But the Most High didn't put this oath or give this oath to any other people. Read it.
Verse 4. And these are the words that the Lord spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah.
Come on.
For thus saith the Lord, we have heard a voice of trembling and of fear, and not of peace. Ask ye now and see whether a man doeth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins as a woman in travail?
Why do I see every man with his hands on his loins as a woman in travail? So this is good news that the awakening has happened. Shouldn't we rejoice? The Most High is like, he's saying, well, listen, when you begin to understand who you are, it's like a woman giving birth. The closer we come to this promise or oath, which is Jerusalem, the more pain and war is directed against us. And it's not until that baby's out. And guess what? With Israel, there is no epidural. There is no, well, oh, this is just too much for us. Tell them to bring in a needle now. Give it to me now. There is no painkiller for this. We must go through all the labor pains in order to be delivered, which is really the refining process. See who's going to give up. Oh no, give me epidural. I'd rather get the mark of the beast. I can't go through this. And listen, this is not to minimize or look down on the science that gives women less pain. That's a choice. I'm using this as an analogy. Okay? Because one thing I don't want you to think I am is insensitive to pain. And we don't have to go through it. So, so if a woman makes a choice and say, listen, I'm willing to do that, that's her choice. But the Most High didn't give this woman, Israel, epidural. He gave Israel a process for refining that would make us worthy for the oath, which is Jerusalem. Read.
Yes, sir. Verse 6. Ask ye now and see whether a man doeth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness.
All faces are turned into paleness. What is this? The people are suffering. They know they're Israel. They should be rejoicing. But suffering is on the horizon. Read.
Verse 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it.
What is it?
It is even the time of Jacob's trouble.
It is even the time of Jacob's trouble. Read.
But he shall be saved out of it.
But he shall be saved out of it. How? How will we get this kingdom? Well, it starts with how we operate from year to year. A purge just happened the last 2 years. Many were lost. Outside of that, loved ones was taken away, who we dearly care for. Like Noah, during the time of Noah's time, when the Most High began to put the elderly and the righteous to sleep so that they couldn't what? Endure the the destruction that would soon hit the earth. I mean, look, it's a new year. Speaking to my brothers the other day, March 6th is my mother's birthday, according to their calendar. Tomorrow, a new year. And after we teach, I have to go with my brothers and pay homage on the new year. But I'm going to tell you, we have all lost someone dear, someone close. And that's all part of the purging. You know, because in the midst of the destruction that's about to happen, that's about to go down in this earth, I can see my mother now. No, Junior, y'all go on. I can't go. I'm tired. So when the hell breaks loose, you know what? She's okay. I'll be able to focus on what I need to help lead. And I thought about it. There's going to be a lot of purging. This was just the first stage of the purge, which were the shots and all those things. And a lot of us stood pat and got through the first phase. But brothers and sisters, there's 9 months to get through when it comes to a birth. There's another phase that's coming. Don't think that war in Ukraine and Russia doesn't immediately impact what's going on with our people. They're calling in reinforcements. That's what's going on, reinforcements under the guise of war. But listen to me clearly. Read.
Verse 7.
We're going to go all the way to the 18th verse here. We only got a few scriptures and then, we're going to celebrate. Read.
Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it.
Come on.
Verse 8. For it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him.
I will break the yoke off of Jacob, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of them. We as a nation, we've been passed around. We've been passed around right up under our noses. Look at our neighborhoods. First, the original people that was in our neighborhood serving us was the Jewish community. Diamond Street and all that was all prime real estate here in Philadelphia. Jewish communities. Strawberry Mansion, where there was mansions, there was all Jewish communities. And we were the help. And had no problem with it. I made it to the big house. When they moved out, systematically, we seen the Asians come in. And we thought it was just a coincidence that Asians have Chinese stores. This store or that store. We didn't know there was a calculated political plan to pass us around and utilize us from one nation to the next. Then it was the East Indians and others. We seen Dunkin' Donuts pop up as if there's a contract with India or something. Strategically put in our neighborhoods. And this is what the Bible's saying. That strangers they should no longer serve ourselves of them, used as servants, being passed around from one nation to the next. Because when Israel began to awaken and understand that there's a promise or an oath, we began to ask questions. Like, what's in it for me? We know what's in it for your East Indian religion, or your Judaism, or your Islam. These are all strategic destructions from one nation to the next over Israel. They have served we have served them from one nation to the next. Read that last piece again of the word.
Yes, sir. Verse 8. For it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him.
Serve themselves of him. Don't you know when they come into this country, they're not looking at the market to market to the suburbs. When they come in this country, when they come amongst us, they try to get a piece of the slave pie. That's what they negotiate. They negotiate us. And how much they can grandize themselves off of us. And this is what they were afraid of. They were afraid that Israel, coming back as a nation, realizing what? We weren't, and we aren't. We were not born. We weren't born to serve any other people. And that's what comes with the knowledge of Israel. And they realize that. Man, if they know they're Israel, then they're going to go into the Word and understand what's promised to them. They're going to realize that their conditions are systematic. That we must keep them down. To do what? To keep the slave class going. To grandize our own nations and our people over them. And they'll start asking us questions like, who are we? Who are we who have conspired, according to the word, against them? That's what happens when that yoke is broken off of us. Read.
Verse 9. But they shall serve the Lord their God, and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them.
They shall serve who?
But they shall serve the Lord their God, and David their king, whom I shall raise up unto them.
And when it talks about David, it's speaking of the throne of David. Christ's throne. Read.
Verse 10. Therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, saith the Lord, neither be dismayed, O Israel. For lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity.
From the land of your captivity. The same God who prophesied that we would go into slavery for disobedience in Deuteronomy 28 made a promise to his people, to his children. That I would do what?
I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity.
From the land of thine captivity. Understand what's going on geopolitically in the earth, folks. The governments of the earth are rallying right now with reinforcements to do what? They're trying to sustain power. What can we do with these people who know they're Israel, who are teaching their children they're Israel? There'll be no future servants for our children. And eventually, their God will hear their plea and begin to bring them back to their land. Listen to this, folks. Understand that the whole world is watching the awakening. The whole world. To you, it's just a Bible study. Or now you're applying for Israel and living your life and just trying to do what's right according to your God as individuals to serve him the best way you can. That's to you. To them, this is a problem. No longer do they have systematic control over us. No longer, now that you know you're Israel, no longer does their religious strongholds work. It's a problem. Because why? You cannot have a building without a strong foundation. Well, guess what, folks? We have, and as always, we've always been the foundation of every nation on earth that they've built their empires on. And guess what? The floor has moved. The floor has moved. It's a new day. Finish reading.
And Jacob shall return and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid.
And none shall make him afraid going forward. Totally hedged and protected from the heavens. And that's the importance of understanding these holy days and the Sabbaths. At the same time, the angels are celebrating in heaven before the throne of the Almighty. We're here under that same hedge. And it's that protection from Sabbath to Sabbath that will eventually lead all of Israel to Zion. Read on.
Verse 11. For I am with thee, saith the Lord, to save thee, though I make a full end of all nations whither I have scattered thee.
Though I make a full end of all nations whither I have scattered thee. This is why they're scrambling right now with these fake wars and everything else. Oh, Ukraine, Russia, da, da, da. Nah, they understand what's going on. No slaves, no dominion. They're rallying. And they understand something, someone is on his way back. Something is coming closer to this earth. And it isn't planet Risk or planet X. Listen to what's going on here. Read.
Though I will make a full end of all nations whither I have scattered thee.
Come on.
Yet will I not make a full end of thee.
Yet will I not make a full end of thee. That means what? Our people are and will get caught up in the destruction of all nations. He will not make a full end of us, but 90% will not make it. Now, Philadelphia in of itself has what? 5.6 million people? Right? And I'm looking in this room, and there's about what, 300? Who know the truth? This is a fraction of a percentage. Think about that. 90% of our people will not make it. Now that 10% is a lot of people though. Because the Most High said that Israel is as the sand of the sea, that cannot be measured nor numbered. So even that 10%, it's a lot of Israelites who are going to make it into Christ's kingdom. But 90% will die. 90%. And I know a lot of people saying, well, it says 2/3. No, the 2/3 is the final purge in the wilderness. The population of the earth, 90% will fall. And that's the majority of all nations. And 10% will make it. Now, in the wilderness, 2/3 shall be cut off and die. Because why? There will be a rebellion. There will be a rebellion in the wilderness. Like it was during the time of Moses, there will be a rebellion. And 2/3 will die in the wilderness before Christ brings in Zion and usher Israel into the Holy Land. Now listen clearly. That purging of 2/3 will be a 7-year period before kingdom. A 7-year kingdom. I mean, a 7-year scenario on earth of taking down all the earth, and at the same time, 2/3 of our people in the wilderness will get picked off. They'll be dying according to their sins. Rebels. Read.
Verse 11. For I am with thee, saith the Lord, to save thee, though I make a full end of all nations whither I have scattered thee. I will not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished.
But I will correct you in measure. See? And a lot of that correction has happened and began to happen in our lives in preparation to prepare us for Christ's kingdom. I will correct you. Right? The correction. Read.
Verse 12. For thus saith the Lord, thy bruise is incurable, and thy wound is grievous. There is none to plead thy cause, that thou mayest be bound up.
Read that part again.
Yes, sir. Verse 12. For thus saith the Lord, thy bruise is incurable.
Thy bruise is incurable. Read.
And thy wound is grievous.
And thy wound is grievous. Read.
There is none to plead thy cause.
And there is none to plead thy cause. We're suffering in the power structure of the earth with all the finances of the earth and resources has totally ignored the suffering of our people. And that's what God is saying in the Bible. Our sores are grievous. Read that again. Read that verse again, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. Verse 12. For thus saith the Lord, thy bruise is incurable.
It's incurable. Read.
And thy wound is grievous.
And thy wound is grievous. Read.
There is none to plead thy cause.
And there's none, no government, no hospital, no nothing, who are concerned with fixing our issues. That's not their concern. That's why we can suffer in these communities, and at the same time, they'll have the whole world rally in sympathy for the Ukraine. Total strangers who had nothing to do with building this country, to show you how less they think of us. He says, listen, they're not trying to cure your wounds. They've created your wounds. They've created your pain. They're not trying to fix it. And this is why we tell brothers and sisters, ignore these so-called people coming into your neighborhoods trying to rally you in politicking so that they can have cushy jobs next to those who are destroying us in the inner cities. Now, listen, these are enemies that are knocking on your door asking you, did you register to vote? Yeah, I registered to vote. What side you like? The heaven. I voted for Christ. Also that they get cushy jobs somewhere to continue to destroy our people and make promises. The only promises that will be kept is the promise God made with us. Understand that. Finish reading.
Verse number 13. There is none to plead thy cause, that thou mayest be bound up. Thou hast no healing medicines.
Thou hast no healing medicines. The Most High is letting you know right now, don't trust their system, their death care system. It's a Trojan horse. They don't care about our health. All of a sudden, you're disproportionately affected, and your community is disproportionately affected. Y'all need it more so than anyone. When have this system ever given us anything in whole or in mass good for us, that benefited us? It should have been the other way around. Give us what you give in the Ukraine, and give them what you tried to give us. How about that? Finish reading.
14. All thy lovers have forgotten thee.
All thy have forgotten thee. All the people who hooked arms with us politically to gain position. They had us hooking arms with gays, Black-Asian alliance, multiculturalism. And we hear about civil rights, and next thing you know, we hear conversation. Well, yeah, the Jews was right there with Martin Luther. Everyone tying their cause to us, only to leave us in the dust. Thy lovers are only there for their benefit. That's it. And once they get the bag, guess what? We're sitting there with nothing, suffering like we were before they came. The Bible tells us that. Thy lovers what?
All thy lovers have forgotten thee.
Have forgotten thee. Read.
They seek thee not.
They seek you not.
For I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one, for the multitude of thine iniquity, because thy sins were increased.
So, and the Most High is telling you, he began to send the nations against us. Why? Because our iniquity increased. You would have thought of people who have suffered as long as our people have suffered, would have understood that the chastisement of God was on them. No. Our nation eventually became worse. Just like the enemy would say. We provide the guns, we provide the drugs, but we're not forcing any of your people to use any of it. We'll provide it, but we're not forcing you to take it. So this thing needs to be fixed internally. When you have what? A segment of our population who thrive off of iniquity. And they understand that particular segment in where we live exists. Those who are enemies within. Who would continue to sell drugs, kill people. And this is what the Most High said. With the suffering that any other community would have had a town meeting by now. They would have had a town meeting. All these schools and gymnasiums and churches and all that in the community, they would have been, these soccer moms and Karens and everyone would have said, listen, we need a meeting. Not my children. And he says, because our family internally don't realize the pain they're causing their own people, I'm going to allow the nations to do even worse. Because this can be fixed if only Israel spoke to each other and understood who their God is. All they have to do is speak to each other. They know all the children that are destroying the neighborhoods. They grew up with them. They know exactly where all the drug dealers are, the hustlers, the conscious community, cats running around with just burning sage for no reason. The con men, the pimp preachers. We know who they all are, and guess what? We just walking around ignoring the ills within our own community that can be fixed starting with a conversation. Read.
Verse 15. Why criest thou for thine affliction? Thy sorrow is incurable for the multitude of thine iniquity. Because thy sins were increased, I have done these things unto thee.
This is why the Most High allowed it to happen. Each nation taking turns with us. Because why? We continue to let what? Our communities erode. Our families erode. We've lost our traditions. our values. And somehow we've allowed the wicked of this earth to silence the righteous. Oh, you can't say that. I can't say what? You can't say that about those people. Oh, no, you can't say that about gays. What I can't say about gays? That God hates fornication? Oh, you can't say that about that group of people. They're powerful. But you can say anything about us. What's wrong with this world? Where the righteous are silenced, and those that are oppressing and destroying us internally cannot even be spoken to or about. The righteous has been silenced. Oh, you can't say that. You can't do that. If you want to know who's in control, that's right. Are they who what? No one can say anything about. That tells you who's in power. Read.
Verse 16. Therefore all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity. And they that spoil thee shall be a spoil.
So now the Most High is going to do what? Reward the remnant, the righteous, the new creature. And saying, listen, everyone who have done wrong against that remnant, our people, pay back. So he's going to allow these things to happen because what? The Most High in heaven is filling up the sun, building a case. And during that whole period that he's building this case against each individual, he's given what? Opportunity for repentance, and the person know it. They know when they've escaped something that was that was beyond their power. And it was the Most High warning them, I'm going to let you go this time. I'll let you go this time. Okay. And you know it was God who intervened. And he says, okay, I'm going to let you go. But guess what? The case getting built continues. Go on. Let's see if you're going to take this new year, this new time, to be different. But a case is being built on our people and on the nations. Because we forgot who we are or who we were. They didn't. These people know that we're the children of Israel. You go over to the Middle East, they'll say it as a matter of fact, as if we teach that in our schools. It's like, y'all don't know y'all Jacob? What? Y'all know y'all Jacob, right? Y'all know y'all Israel. We all know you're Israel. They say it as a matter of fact. I'm speaking to some regular old guys in a tea shop. Alexandria, Egypt. You walk down this little path, and they have their little seashore shops all on the side, and then you go inside to get your tea. And I'm just sitting with regular old characters. And I'm like, and I asked a question because I was just curious because this one guy was just looking at me, looking at me. I'm like, what this guy's looking at, man? He says, no, there's something there, there's something. I'm like, well, who do y'all say we are here? Who are our people, the blacks in America? In Egypt. And I have witnesses to confirm this conversation standing in this room. Oh, you're Bani Yaakov. Bani Yaakov, yes, the sons of Jacob. That's what they call us in the Middle East. They call our people Bani Yaakov, the sons of Jacob. All of the Muslims, all of the Arabs, the East Indians, when they come over to America, they know exactly the people they're taking advantage of. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking, I'm like, y'all heard that? Yeah, we heard that. But they'll come over here, assalamu alaikum, get a rug and 5 times towards Allah, peace be upon him. Finish reading.
Yes, sir. Verse number 17. For I will restore thy health unto thee, and I will heal thee of all thy wounds, saith the Lord. Because they called thee an outcast, saying,
They called us an outcast. And this is what they said.
This is Zion, whom no man seeketh after.
This is Zion. This is Israel. And no man will seek out to help them. No man will seek after Jacob. Because why? The world in general will not teach of Jacob. They exist, but yet don't exist. If you're not a nation, you don't know exactly what you're entitled to. See? If you're just black, African American, a minority, if you're Haitian or Jamaican, what are you entitled to? According to God, absolutely nothing. Because there's no promise for those people under those names, under those titles. So it says right here that the nations would say what? Read it again, Elder Lawyer.
Verse 17. For I will restore unto thee, or restore health unto thee. I will heal thee of all thy wounds, saith the Lord.
Come on.
Because they called thee an outcast,
Because
saying,
they called us an outcast, saying,
This is Zion, whom no man seeketh after.
this is Zion, whom no man seeketh after. There's no political agenda anywhere that are focused on restoring Zion. Politically. Anywhere. You think the presidents and the ambassadors and all those over the earth don't know who you are? There's enough resources to fix all of our issues overnight if they wanted them fixed. And it's about time we realize, you know what? It's not upon the nations who've enslaved us to fix us. We have to realize that. Everything to fix us has always been within us. Everything. We're the salt of the earth. Without us, no empire could have ever been built or can be built. That's why Christ said, listen, man, y'all sleeping on the power my God has in you. The kingdom cometh not by observation. You're still waiting for a kingdom? When your people have built every kingdom known to man, it was always in us. But we downplay the spirit the Most High have actually gifted us with. And we can only utilize it to benefit everyone else. And when we finally came to that realization and say, you know what? It's time to be a new creature. I'm stepping out of all of this and I'm going to try it different. What happens when you begin to use the gifts of the Most High for you and your people? It's a phenomenon. It's a phenomenon. When you step out and say, you know what? In total faith. And say, you know what? It's time to do the unthinkable. What the world thinks is impossible. And what happens when you do that? I'm looking at it. Look at the gathering of Christ Church. Look at you. You think we're waiting for the outside to fix that? No, the kingdom is within us. And everyone can look on the outside and try to gauge or think they understand what this is. Oh man, this is it. But you wasn't there in the beginning. See, it's easy to look at something that's built without understanding what it takes to build it. I don't think many people could have lived overseas without a place to stay, going place to place and not knowing where they're going to lay their head next. Okay? I don't think people would have been checked out. It's easy to look at something at the end of it and say, man, this is this, that, and the other, and try to make an opinion on it. Where were you when all we had to eat was a what? A bag of onions and 2 bags of potatoes that had to stretch for 2-3 months? Where were you? Where were you when an Egyptian is knocking on the door? They don't collect rent like they do over here. It's not about court overseas. It's about money now or eviction now. Where were you? See, but it's all about what? Utilizing the faith that has always existed within us. And the Most High said, listen, I'm not even going to make it where you can actually depend on the nations. I'm going to make it where you're forced to depend on me. Listen clearly. Come on.
Yes, sir. Verse 18, last verse. Thus saith the Lord, behold, I will bring again the captivity of Jacob's tents, and have mercy on his dwelling places. And the city shall be builded upon her heap, and the palace shall remain after the manner thereof.
Now let's go into the building of Israel. First of all, let's go to Luke 5 and 33 to 39. And then we're going to go to the book of Revelation.
St. Luke chapter 5, verse number 33.
Listen to this clearly. This is what Christ is saying here. Read.
And they said unto him, Why do thy disciples, or why do the disciples of John fast often and make prayers, and likewise the disciples of the Pharisees?
Come on.
But thine eat and drink. And he said unto them, Can ye make the children of the bridegroom or the bride chamber fast, while the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken away from them, and then shall they fast in those days.
Now when it talks about the bridegroom, that woman that's in travail is being prepared to meet Christ in a wedding that would reunite us with our God for the kingdom. He's the bride's groom. Right? Come on.
Yes, sir. 36. And he spake also a parable unto them.
He spoke the parable. Listen to this parable.
No man putteth a new piece of a garment upon an old. If otherwise, then both the new maketh a rent.
Come on.
And the place that was taken out of the new agreeth not with the old.
Come on.
And no man putteth new wine into old bottles.
Now, he says, listen, I don't care how great your garment looks. If there's a tear or a patch on a dress or a pair of pants, and you try to patch that thing up, I don't care how good of a seamstress you are or a tailor, everyone's going to know you patched it up. Because that dress was, or what you wore was washed, it was wore, and when you try to put something new on it, it's sturdy, and you know what? It becomes unbalanced. You have to throw the whole thing out. So, what is this parable? What does this mean, especially in the midst of us being in a new year? Check out what it's saying. Read.
37. And no man putteth new wine into old bottles.
And this is the conversation I'm getting over and over and over when I answer my phone. Brothers and sisters are talking about how can I break through for my family? They're so hard-headed. They think I'm in a cult. This, that, and the other. I get more phone calls with that than any other calls, even more than baptism, concerning the stubbornness of their families. Realizing that what we're teaching here is more important than anything you can hear religiously right now for our people or for the world. Because how many times you go to a church and you learn the Bible and how to apply it to protect yourself in this world? They give you a prophetic perspective to know who are your friends according to Christ and what an enemy looks like. And guess what? It's so refreshing to learn the Bible this way. You know, a lot of us get excited and think that that same excitement you receive when conveying this to your family or friends. And Christ made it clear. There's something different about the guys who are with me. You out there trying to put something new in an old garment. You out there trying to put new wine in an old bottle. And they're satisfied with their garment that way. They're satisfied being full of lies. And I don't care how good a wine you might have right here. If someone has an old bottle of wine that's bitter and pour all of it out and leave a corner in, and you try to fill it with that bitter is going to affect the whole bottle. So these people must want it. They must urge to know God. They must have a what? A passion for God like you did. See? A lot of you have already understood what it means to be renewed. And now we're going to build on that, starting from the baptism from year to year. And guess what? And even us, we have to understand that what? We can't put new wine in old bottles, lest it burst. We can't be filled with an age-old opinion we had of certain things growing up and hold to that as if what? Change cannot happen. Well, I've always been this way. It's always served me right. No, that was you. And this is what's so refreshing. And I'm going to tell you, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about my mother since all that has happened. Not a day. And when I was on the phone yesterday, and this elderly woman who had her grandchildren in the background on Patreon rejoiced in this word as if she was a newborn baby. It totally calmed my sadness concerning even my mother. I'm like, it sounded like I was talking to my mother. And I'm like, this is what the word is for. It's not who we can think. We think we individually can convince to come to this. Christ is choosing his. And she's an old woman who was willing to put down everything she learned and is rejoicing in this truth right now. She had to have been about around my mother's age. She had to have been about 70, in her late 70s. So it's not who we choose, it's who the Most High chooses. There'll be two working in the mill. These are two people who always knew each other. He's going to leave one there and take the other. There'll be two sleeping in the bed. 9 times out of 10, they're in the same house, same family. He's going to leave one and take the other. And the biggest resistance we can all receive are those who are close to us. Why? Christ went to a town and couldn't do no miracles because they knew him. That's the carpenter's son. Yeah, I remember that snotty-nosed boy running around. Yeah. How you going to try to claim to be a prophet? That's how your family sees you. They can only see or view you through the person they knew. They don't understand this new creature. It's not who they grew up with. They don't understand it. And usually what we do, if it's something we don't understand immediately in this world, we're taught to dismiss it. Automatic. That's weird. That's cultish. No, that's Christ. Finish reading, Elder Lawyer. I got one more after this, and then we can break down for food.
Yes, sir. St. Luke 5:37. And no man put new wine into old bottles.
No man put a new wine into old bottles. A person has to be ready to say, you know what? In good faith, I will approach this conversation as if I know nothing at all. In good faith. You can't come and get this truth with your belief systems at the table. It will block you. It will block you. Because we as individuals fight to do what? We fight to confirm what we believe. And everyone in this earth, believe it or not, folks, believe their religion and what they're serving is the true way. So when we're interacting with people and dealing with people, you have to say, you know what? Unless you're willing to speak to me right now as if you know nothing at all when I go into this word, there can be no conversation. It's only we're going to butt heads and have conflict. And then, on the other side, we must, for the sake of what? Growing, we must be what? Able to do the same thing. I don't agree. I'm going to tell you right now, based on my belief system, I don't agree with what you're saying. But I'm willing and I'm open to leave all that to the side so that you can prove all things to me. And I'll take it as if I learned nothing at all. Shoot. I like to let them shoot first. Right? But like, listen, I'm not going to argue. I'm willing to just open myself up to believe what you can believe if you can teach it. Because you can't put new wine in old bottles. And I'm going to tell you what happens. You open yourself up. And the person might be wrong in their belief, but yet you can still learn something that you didn't know before in that conversation. Because you're willing to do what? Be what? Receive new wine. See? You're willing to have the conversation. And this is what it means to be new. To be able to discuss scenarios with people that you even disagree with. And in my mind, even I was saying it the other day, you know what? I'm gonna work on my patience personally with that. It's nothing like what? Listening to something that you know is wrong. But I might miss an opportunity one day if the person can't speak to me at all. They're not wrong all the time. Right? So we have to be more patient. We have to be more patient so that we can get to our family members if there's an opportunity. Finish reading, Elder William.
Yes, sir. St. Luke 5:37. And no man put a new wine into old bottles, else the new wine will burst the bottles and be spilled, and the bottles shall perish. But new wine must be put into new bottles.
New bottles. Someone who's willing to be open, to be filled. Nothing like a heady person to a degree where they can't receive anything. And you know what? That can happen to those who know the truth. Even the Bible says, knowledge puffeth up. Right? So with all the knowledge, what comes with that knowledge? You know what comes with it? Humility. Where someone can look at you and know all the stuff you learn and be like, you know what? From the first day I met you, you've always been this particular person. Doesn't matter what you've learned and how many books and knowledge you've acquired. You've always been the person I knew. And that's when you realize, you know what? At the end of the day, all glory goes to the Most High. Right? So listen to what we're going. Come on.
Verse 38. But new wine must be put into new bottles.
Come on.
And both are preserved.
And both are preserved. Come on.
No man also having drunk old wine straightway desireth new, for he saith, the old is better.
Come on. So, let's now go to 2 Corinthians 5 and 16 and 17. This is a new year, and there should be a refreshing of understanding what that means with becoming or continuing in that new creature we become. All right? Oh yeah, by the way, since y'all didn't know it, what's the current war right now? Anybody can say it. Between who? Between who? Between Russia and the Ukraine. Okay. The next time I ask that question, we're going to answer it correctly. Right? What's the current war right now? Huh? It's the war that have always existed. Esau against Jacob. That's the war. The world powers who have conspired against the children of Israel. That's the real war. Every other war that they've taught us in America was packaged through media and was never what they were claiming. So don't let them sidetrack you with war. Okay? The only war that you're going that we all have to be concerned about prophetically that leads to Christ's coming is the Iranian war. Until that happens, understand the majority of wars are fabricated through media. The true war right now is the war against us. Okay? What am I more concerned about? What's going on between Ukraine and Russia? Or that the President of the United States giving out crack pipes and meth things to our people in the community? Which war should we be more so concerned about with our family living in that community? Where our children have to grow up and can't run down the street. And can't play like we used to. I remember we used to be able to play on stoops and all that. You didn't have no worry about your children going to play basketball right across the street, 50th and Diamond. We be gone, let me tell you, we can be gone and around where we live for days. And my mom be like, well, I know where you at. Yeah. Andrew's mother called me. I knew you was up the street. This is how people were, folks. The real war is against us, folks. God's people. A new creature. Let's go so we can eat now.
Yes, sir. 2
All right.
Corinthians 5 and 16. Wherefore henceforth know we no man after the flesh.
Know ye no man after the flesh. Come on.
Yea, though we have known Christ after the flesh, yet now henceforth know we him no more. Therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature.
He is a what?
A new creature.
A new creature. Read.
Old things are passed away.
All things are passed away, and that also includes what? Grudges, vendettas. And Christ keeps telling us over and over. You pray, and sometimes your prayer can be what? In vain. Christ made it clear. Here's the deal. My Father will forgive your debts as you forgive your debtors. So he's only going to listen to you in answering prayer to the degree you forgive those who had aught against you. Now you can come to the Father and say, I want forgiveness, because you know what it is to forgive. And I gotta say it, man, one of the greatest tools they use against our people and all people is to have us walk through our whole lives thinking we're victims. That's a political tool. I was abused. I was this. I was that. So you can hold that grudge every place you go. And Christ said, I thought you were a new creature. I thought you forgave all that. I thought you were healed from that. I thought we healed you from the heavens on that. See, and this system needs people with grudges, because this is how they control you, through your emotions. That's why they always want to talk about being tolerant and this, that, and the other, because they need victims to continue in the spirit of victims. That's not a new creature. That's a person that any time can be triggered. Can be triggered. Not to say that we ought to forget the ills we grew up experiencing, but when those ills affect how we deal with other people, and it makes it where there's no growth from that point, we're still that damaged person that was damaged 10 or 15 years ago, and that person cannot be utilized for the kingdom. Because this person holds a grudge. See? Read that again.
Yes, sir. Verse 17.
Yes.
Therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature.
A new creature.
Old things are passed away.
All things are passed away.
Behold, all things are become new.
And all things have become new. Read.
And all things are of God, who have reconciled us to himself.
Who have reconciled us back to the Almighty. Read.
By Yeshua the Christ.
By Yeshua the Christ.
And have given to us the ministry of reconciliation.
And have given to us the what?
The ministry of reconciliation.
The ministry of reconciliation. What exactly is that? A ministry that would reconcile God's people back with him. Back with him. Understand, relationships are reflective of the Most High's relationship with us. Reconciliation. Well, think about it. How long do we want the Most High to hold this grudge against us? 5 seconds. How long? You want that thing to be forgiven out of the way. Lord, you seen nothing. I'm fine. Last year, whatever it was, you want him to say what? You want to be reconciled back with him without him holding that against us, right? So that's reflective of how we operate. To have a forgiving heart and say, you know what? I'm not going to bring up this anymore. I'm not going to see you that way. I'm going to give you a brand new fresh start like the Most High continually gives me. And you know what? That in of itself will have us as individuals, brothers and sisters, walking in this earth a little lighter every day going forward. A little lighter. We feel a little better because, you know, I don't have the weight of the past on me anymore. I'm free of that. The same way the Most High freed me and gave me a new lease on life with him. I'm going to do that with other people, especially those who are close to me now. Right? Ephesians 4 and 20. Ephesians 4 and 20. Let's read that.
Ephesians 4, verse 20.
Come on.
But ye have not so learned Christ. If so be that ye have heard him, and have been taught by him, as the truth is in Yeshua, that ye put off concerning the former conversation the old man,
Put off the former conversations and the old man. Right? Read.
that ye put off concerning the former conversation the old man,
Come on.
which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust.
Which is corrupt according to what?
The deceitful lust.
Come on.
And be renewed in the spirit of your mind.
And be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Read on.
And that ye put on the new man, which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness.
Come on.
Wherefore putting away lying.
Put away what?
Putting away lying.
Putting away lying.
Speak every man truth with his neighbor.
Speak every man truth with his neighbor.
For we are members one of another.
Now, when it says put away lying, a lot of us in the earth have found ways to circumvent this particular word. Lying isn't just outright lying on a person or lying for a scenario. Sometimes there's lying by omission. By what? Saying things that can lead to someone concluding a certain perception on someone or somebody. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to say he or she did this, but I'm not going to say he or she did this, but it seems like this person is doing this. No confirmation. Lying by omission. Putting something out there that would have another person view a brother or sister negatively. That's wrong. That's where heresy comes in. That's where division comes in. And we have to realize, especially at the very end, being one body, really, brothers and sisters, in this earth, we are all we have. Understand that. And there should be, that's why the Bible teaches there should be no schisms amongst us. Because what? Where are we going? What are our options? The world don't accept us, don't accept you. You can't go back to the world knowing what you know and just operate like Cyphus in the Matrix. Yeah, this is me. I know that this is just molecules from a computer program, but you know what? Ignorance is bliss. Nah, let me tell you, shouldn't be no schisms in the body. We should be upfront, forgive each other, love each other, and go on like it never happened. And if somebody hurt you, which will happen because Christ says offenses will come, we're not to speak about that offense to any other individual outside of that person. Because now, the weight you're carrying has made that brother or sister an enemy of a brother who's not even involved in the incident. It's wrong. It's wrong. I don't care. I just needed a shoulder to cry on. Yeah, it wasn't just you, that was Satan with you too. The first thing I ask people, hey, before you talk to me about it, did you talk to this person first? And one guy on the phone wanted to argue with me. He's like, no, I want to tell you. I'm like, listen, bro, you're asking me to go against Christ. If you haven't talked about, if you haven't spoken with this person, how can you speak to me about it? How do I know whether or not you're telling the truth? You're saying I'm a liar? And this is why the Bible tells you we can't lie. The brother got mad almost. He wanted to bang on the phone because I wouldn't allow him to talk about someone else. And guess what? These were people who weren't even in the church. I counsel people when they call the phone and all that, and I speak with them, and I'm like, bro, you cannot talk to me about this. Go talk to your family. Because if I hear what you're saying, It's against Christ. And then I'll say, you got a Bible? That's what I do. Oh, I don't got my Bible on me. You have a phone? You're on a phone. Pull up a Bible. And I have them read that scripture. And we're going to end with that scripture. Put on the new man. No lying. Being truthful. And I see people online. You know, believe it or not, some of the lies out there and what they put online, believe it or not, folks, sometimes it's entertainment for me. I be sitting there cracking up. Or why you don't feel a certain type of way when people are saying certain things? You know why? Because if this work wasn't effective, there would be nothing to talk about. And I'm like, you know, straight up. So I laugh. Oh yeah, by the way, y'all, if y'all didn't know, there's a Jewish guy by the name of Dan Peterson who really runs the church. In case y'all didn't know that, it's online. He's really the Illuminati controller of Elder Ricard Shiar. Okay? I be cracking up. They don't even have enough time to look up what a licensed agent is. If you're going to do a church in another state, you have to have an agent of that state to operate, to actually put things together for that state. And then we can do it throughout the whole earth, the United States, whatever the case is. They don't even know that a person's name who's licensed for that nonprofit has to have a license for that. And I'm like, let me tell you, I be cracking up. How they would try to associate us with all types of crap and all that. And I look at it and I laugh and I look at it and say, you know what? I thank the Most High. I forgive them. I ask the Most High, I pray for them. But you know what? I look at it and I say, you know what? Thank you. Thank you. Why? Why? Let me show you why. Let's get St. John 15 and 15 and we're going to end it with here. And then we're going to show you at the end how you deal with arts going forward. This is why I celebrate when people make up things who don't know me. I'll be cracking up. You know what I mean? And the Illuminati sent lawyer too. And since y'all didn't know that. You know? When you had those little plaques coming from that Rite Aid on 9th and Market before we went into that little church. What, 19 years old? 19 years old. And you was already hooked with the Illuminati at that time? Man. Ain't that something? I gotta watch out. Where's your brother at? Where he at? He's in Yahweh. Okay. They sent 2 on me. And guess what? I don't care. Let me tell you. If they do send one from someplace else, we will convert them and they'll be working for Christ. Hey, I'm good with that too. Elder Lawyer, read it. This is why I celebrate when people lie. Read it.
St. John, you said?
Yeah.
St. John 15.
If they hate you. 15 and 18, yes.
St. John 15, verse 18.
15 and 18, read it.
If the world hate you,
If the world hates you, brothers and sisters,
ye know that it hated me before it hated you.
know that the world hated Christ before it hated you. Christ has sat there with people that he fed with loaves of bread. He had 5 loaves, a few loaves, and just a little bit of wine and a little bit of food. He fed everybody. And the same people that were sitting there like, yeah, man, you the bomb, Christ. They were the same people lying in his face at the council. And he sat and looked at them. They knew they were lying, and he knew they were lying. And what did Christ say? Forgive them, for they know not what they do. They don't understand. There's not too many people on this earth that'll fight for this people. So when he's gone, who's going to fight for you? Who's going to be there for you? They don't even know they're destroying their own voice. That they're fighting against their own selves. That's why Christ said, what, read it?
If the world hate you, ye know that it hated me before it hated you.
If the world hates you, know that it hated Christ first. So it's a badge of reward when you see people you've never done anything against. That'll make up stuff, that'll lie, that'll do anything. Why? They need others to see them negatively, to justify their stance, living in negativity. See, if they're out there by themselves, they'll have to self-examine. But if they can get someone else to feel a certain type of way, now, that's right, y'all know the old saying, misery loves company. Read it.
Verse 19, if you were of the world would love his own.
If we were of the world will love his own. Read.
But because you are not of the world.
But because you are not what?
Of the world.
Of the world.
But I've chosen you out of the world.
But he's chosen you out of the world. Read.
Therefore the world hated you.
Therefore the world hated you. Because why? Because we were chosen out of the world hates us. So Christ says, no marvel. Last but not least, for the new year, we're going to exercise this scripture. Let's do it. Yep.
St. Matthew chapter 18, verse 15. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee,
if thy brother shall trespass or do something against you,
go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone.
Between who?
Between thee and him alone.
Well, I just want to speak to you, Elder Lawyer, because I want to know how I should approach this brother or approach this sister.
Between thee and him alone.
No, it's not about, getting comfortable with approaching a person. You know what it is? It's about spreading something. Spreading, you already feeling negative. So you don't even understand you're carrying something that you are about to deliver to an innocent person who knows nothing about this art you have with another person. And you have to realize, I'm one of these people that when I hear something, immediately I try to fix it. Right? I want to know what's the end of it. That's why I don't like to hear everything, because in my mind, I'm already moved for a solution. So suppose someone came to me and told me this about a brother or a sister, and guess what? They didn't get the story completely straight. And I'm moving in that spirit of that person being used as a pawn to attack my own brother or sister. Or I can't speak to you if you're operating with that sister or that brother that way. I know that's a good brother or sister. So this is how divisions began. So Christ said, nah, for no reason. You go to that person alone. Now, when you go to them, you cannot go to them with an attitude. It tells us how you shall approach a person in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. If someone is overtaken in a fault, restore such a one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself. How would you like someone to approach you when there's an art? So you can't address them by blaming them for what they've done. You did this or you did that. No. You have to first start off with what you did, it hurt me. That right there hurt me. What you mean it hurt? Yeah, what you did, it hurt me. And now y'all can have the conversation. Because you're not blaming someone. Because sometimes a person can offend a person and don't know that they offended them. They don't know what happened. And now what you do naturally can offend a person. So you have to know, okay, I can't do that around this brother or sister because that hurts that person. But you're not supposed to go to other people with it. Read.
Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone.
Come on.
If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother.
And if your brother hear you or sister hear you, you've gained a brother. Read.
Verse 16. But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established.
See that? Because obviously if this person now get indignant, you understand you come in the spirit of meekness, and now obviously this person has a record of operating like this unchecked. So now, if the same instance happened with another person, now you're sitting in a meeting, and the elder, deacon, or whoever dealing with the council and say, there's just 2 people here, brother, who say, you've done these things, or you're doing these things, and can you apologize? It's not just one instance, and you're not going to be stepping on toes. We're not going to have, bunions all through the church here. Okay, so if 1 or 2, you're stepping on feet, we're going to heal these toes, but you're not going to step on no other. So can you admit that what you're doing is wrong? Well, yeah, I'm going to be careful the way I walk now. Good. Apologize to the 2. Okay, we're good. Shalom, hug each other. Yeah, there you go. Let's toast with a little wine. Love you. That's if you like wine. Shalom. Right? And guess what? It cannot be brought up again. And you have to give someone the latitude of doing what? Offending you again. Because it may not be the same instance, because family offends one another. And that's why Peter said, well, how many times that if I have aught with a brother, should I forgive him? 7 times? So at least give me 7. I'll let him go 7 times. No, Christ said this, 77 times 7. What he told Peter, start multiplying. Because that's how many times I'm going to forgive you. If you come to me with a contrite heart and you're sorry for what you did, I'm going to forgive you not 7 times, 77 times 7. Right? Last portion, read.
Yes, sir, verse 17. And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church. But if you neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as an heathen and a public, or a heathen man and a publican.
That's clear. So now, 2 people, but then he's like, I don't care what y'all say, I'm going to continue. As a matter of fact, this Sabbath, I'm stepping on toes everywhere. And it's like this. I'm just using that as an analogy, y'all. All right? Whatever the offense is. So, here it is. Tell the whole church about the toes you like to step on. I don't care. I'm going to be all over the place. I don't care what y'all say. What Bishop Amar say, I don't care. Be like, well, okay, brother. Security. That's how the Bible say deal with that. They go to the world. You got what? 5.6 million feet to step on. All right? So let's try to apply this more and more, not hold grudges. Have a newness of spirit and say, you know what? First of all, I'm going to forgive myself for the things that I've done against, because sometimes we live in guilt. I'm going to forgive myself for the acts I've done in the past. Number 1, I'm not going to walk as a victim going forward. I'm a new creature in Christ. And I'm going to try to exercise the spirit of forgiveness with those who are part of my body. my family, my body, my church, even in the world. No more grudges. Okay? No more. And guess what? Is our calendar through the Spirit of the Most High that was given us from the heavens, is it right on or what? You see the weather today? With that, we're going to take communion real quick. Let me get the bread and wine. And I would like to say to my brothers and sisters, Happy New Year. We have bread and wine. Elder Lawyer.
Okay, 1 Corinthians chapter 11.
Yes.
Verse number 23. For I perceived of the Lord that which I also delivered unto you, that the Lord Yeshua, the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread, and when he had given thanks, he brake it and said, Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. This do ye in remembrance of me.
For water ahaya, for your body, the body of Christ. Yeshua.
25. And after the same manner also he took the cup when he had supped, saying, This cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye as oft as ye drink it in remembrance of me.
The water for his sacrifice.
This cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye as often as ye drink it in remembrance of me.
Come on.
For as often as ye eat this bread and drink this cup, ye do show the Lord's death till he come.
This is what we're doing. We're showing the Lord's death till he comes. Till he comes. All right? Every time we take this communion, we're sitting at the table that Christ was at his last supper. How many of you are ready for the Passover? Yeah. Man, it's going to be one of those days. Praise the Most High. It's going to be one of those days. So, hey, are y'all ready? Y'all sure? All right. All praises. I would like to say Happy New Year. May the Most High be with you all. Stay prayed up, sin not. We will soon see Zion, and enjoy your meal. Shalom. Let's give it up for the elders one more time. Yes, yes, yes. All right, brothers and sisters. On the back of that, we got one more Shabbat, which is next week before the Passover. So before we take this collection, we're going to get the announcements first. So please, brothers and sisters, take your pens, get your pads out, make sure you record the announcements because it's very poignant that you hear and take heed of the announcements. So without further ado, our beloved administrator, Sister Amana, let's give some hearty welcome and praise for